Now let's take a look at the practical side of semiotics. What is necessary for you to know when you design your moving pictures? Take a look at this. What is it? Some sort of bird? You need your time to register all the features of this image. Like, for instance, the second eye that is hidden in the dark side of the face of this black cat. Which raises the question, how do we recognize a cat? Does this shape represent a cat? Hardly. And how about now? Still not convincing, is it? But add those triangles up there and voila, here's your cat. As we have remarked before, the uniform of a policeman is not a sign, but it becomes a sign as soon as it's in a picture, like here. The depicted policeman has several generic features, which help us identify the meaning of the depiction. There is, for once, the uniform. Then there is his body shape, his skin color, his actions, like fidgeting with a cell phone. Yet, apart from all those generic features, he is also an individual. Who is he? We need to see his face in order to single him out as an individual. That's not just a fat cop. That's Charlie, if his name is Charlie. So far, we know who he is and what his main features are. What is the meaning of this image? For let's assume our fat-bodied Charlie is attending a costume party. Now what does that say about his uniform and about his identity? So in order to sum it up, let me show you this chart. Whenever we depict something, we have to consider three main semiotic categories, as I shall display here with the kind assistance of Bruce the Shark. First of all, we have to make sure the audience recognizes what the thing on the screen is in general, as a generic thing. In our case, what features make a shark, say, as opposed to a sardine? For one thing, it doesn't come in tin cans. Then there is our task of making the shark come to life by adding individual features. This will give authenticity to the thing we depict. Not only shall we add individual colors to our shark, we have to think about a recognizable feature that will unmistakably individualize our friend Bruce. Very often an individual feature is the mark of a story untold. Let's assume our shark had a little accident. Like Bruce 2 in Jaws 2, who got burned during an attack. So let's add those burn marks, which will set Bruce apart from all the other sharks. If we don't know the story of where he got them, it will add mystery to his countenance. But why are we looking at that shark anyway? We need reason, we need meaning, and this is accomplished through the foil effect. We simply add the proper background to round the picture up. Now we have a recognizable shark, which is authentic as an individual and meaningful within a given setting. How does the setting add meaning? Well, imagine our shark is not set in the depths of the ocean, but rather on top of a fireplace. Now he's no longer the king of the ocean. The meaning has totally shifted. Let me give you another example. Let's assume we are going to write a scene in which our hero finds a mysterious and important notebook. Where should this scene take place? In a library? Well, rather not. That's boring. An old attic? Yeah, maybe, but still, there are better ways. Why not amidst the flames of a great fire? Imagine our hero staring at a fireplace when he beholds a book about to be consumed by the flames. The pages curl up in the heat, and all of a sudden our hero eyes something that makes him rush to the flames, rescue the book, and extinguish the fire. Now we know this is an important book, and we are interested. So that's what we have to do when considering the foil effect. Put things in a setting where they grab our attention. It's all about contrast. Let's talk about the generic category and how to apply it. Here's a practical example. Let's assume that in the screenplay it says, "She takes a sip of wine." Now, which of the two images represents that scene better? This one or that one? Following the logic of our semiotic categories, we have to make sure in the first place that the audience recognizes whatever it is we mean to depict. Even though the lady on the right might sip some cheap wine in her paper cup, the image doesn't say so. Here, it is the generic effect that's of importance. Let's watch a clip from a famous old movie by Fritz Lang. The title of the movie is M. Eine Stadt sucht einen Mörder. A movie about a serial killer whose victims are little girls. Just look at the way Lang uses the generic effect to point out to the audience that it is the killer who approaches the child. There is some irony in the fact that the girl throws her ball at the advertising pillar, where the ball bounces off the word murder, which of course means murderer. See how Lang makes use of the generic quality of the man's shadow, thus building a connection between girl and man via ball, poster, shadow. This is how you tell a story through film as a sign language. Now let's ponder the other category, the ways of individualization. The importance of the individualization effect becomes obvious, especially where it is lacking. Just look at this picture from a period movie and you'll realize how unconvincing the uniformity of the supposedly ancient Greek women looks. There is not one girl with any particular features that would make her a specific individual. The individualization is about adding particulars to a scene, giving it an authentic texture. A master in that regard was Japanese director Yasujiro Ozu. In this scene, where a lady from a noble family catches her grandson playing hooky, there is a strange detail that almost looks like improvised. In the boy's study, there is a tiny tin box on the floor next to his desk. This little detail seems to signify nothing, really, but it still is extraordinary. Why and how did the director come up with this detail? Following what rules? And what does it contribute to the scenery? Well, a good individualization always adds an air of mystery to a scene. This tiny box has a story of its own, but we can only guess it during that brief glimpse we get of it. Maybe You wouldn't even have noticed if I hadn't pointed it out to you.
僕のこと電信柱ってやんだもん。おはしかにやっちゃったんだよ。教育ってやられちゃうんだよ。
そんなことで学校休んじゃダメじゃないの。そんな時には先生に。
やだ。早く行くよ。
どうぞ。
閉めてね。
The most important category is the background or foil effect. Let's take a look at a famous moment from Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train, a powerful demonstration of what the foil effect can do for you. So, what's happening here? Our eyes single out that one guy in the audience who does not follow the ball. And this is exactly what the foil effect does. It directs our eyes to focus on what is remarkable by standing out, either by visual contrast or by convention. Like it is the case with an earthworm, which presents no big deal on soil, as opposed, say, on top of some pastry. You're sure going to notice that, not only on grounds of visual contrast, but also by convention. It simply does not belong there. It's like the notebook in the fireplace. If you want to direct our attention, put things where they do not belong. So finally, let's take a look at one great example. In the series Breaking Bad, the character Jesse Pinkman gets a smartphone assigned. Much to his dismay, it is one of those Hello Kitty phones. Now let's dissect in terms of semiotic effects. Of course, we have to know by what features we recognize this device as a cell phone. Next, we need to single this phone out by giving it a memorable visual attribute. And how is this set apart from the background? Well, by convention. Because Jesse means to be the meanest MF in town. So, what we've been talking about today certainly applies not only to Christian filmmaking. It ought to be common knowledge among all the film scholars, but it isn't, as I have pointed out in the beginning of this lecture. Yet, all this is vital in learning about film as an abstract, transcendental sign language. In future installments, I shall show you how to practice this the way you would do when learning any other language, by giving you some exercises. Okay, till then, see you around and God bless.